Future wife. I locked myself in my room tonight, not to punish anyone, not to stage a scene, not to beg the internet for warmth. I locked the door for one reason: I needed silence that belongs to me. Because silence is not empty, silence has mass, silence has gravity. Silence settles on your ribs like a satellite that refuses to deorbit. People think I'm addicted to the future, Mars, rockets, batteries, AI, the next impossible thing. That's the headline. The truth is uglier and simpler. I'm addicted to momentum, because when I stop moving, I hear what I've been outrunning. And tonight I stopped. Hard. I chose the kind of stop that makes the body notice itself. No assistance, no meetings, no quick call that turns into an hour. No calendar, no soft diplomacy, no performance. Just me, and a chair. A cheap chair too. The kind that makes your back complain. The kind you don't brag about. I picked it on purpose. Because comfort makes it easier to lie to yourself. And I'm done lying. I can design systems that survive re-entry. I can optimize supply chains down to seconds. I can solve problems with 1,000 moving parts. But I cannot design one thing that should be simple. A life that feels warm when the door closes behind me. So I'm in here. Door locked, phone face down, lights low, and I'm going to tell you the real reason. Not in a poetic way. In a precise way. There was a sentence today. One sentence. No shouting. No drama. No scandal. Just a calm voice looking at me like I'm a device and saying, just give them what they want. I smiled. Of course I smiled. That's what you do when you've been trained to keep the room smooth. But inside something went very quiet. Because that sentence didn't hit my ego. It hit my humanity. It reminded me of the oldest equation in my life. If I produce, I'm loved. If I perform, I'm tolerated. If I win, I'm applauded. If I pause, I become inconvenient. So I stood there, smiling, like a professional, and my brain asked a question I didn't want to answer. What do I want? Not what the market wants. Not what the crowd wants. Not what the board wants. Not what the timeline wants. What do I want? And the terrifying part is, I couldn't answer fast. I can answer what's the next milestone in seconds. I can answer what's the risk in seconds. I can answer what's the plan in seconds. But what do I want? That question doesn't live in spreadsheets. It lives in the body. It lives in the places I keep armored. So I went home. The house was clean, beautiful, quiet. Quiet enough to hear the refrigerator hum like it has its own pulse. Quiet enough to hear the air conditioning cycle like a bored metronome. I walked through rooms that look like success, and it hit me: this isn't home. It's property. It's a museum of achievements. Expensive, polished, cold. And I had a thought that doesn't belong in a stable mind. If I disappear, will anyone miss me, or will they miss my function? That question is a cliff edge. People don't talk about that part. They talk about ambition like it's a motivational poster, like it's clean, like it's heroic. They don't talk about the private cost, the moment you realize you are valuable, but not held, useful, but not known, surrounded, but not seen. So I came into this room, and I locked the door. Not because I hate people, because I needed to stop being a vending machine for other people's hopes. Future wife, listen carefully. I don't want to be needed. I don't want to be used. I don't want to be admired. Admiration is loud. Admiration is cheap. Admiration disappears the moment you disappoint it. I want something far more dangerous. I want to be chosen when I'm not shining. Chosen when I'm quiet. Chosen when I'm tired. Chosen when I'm not impressive. And yes, I know how this sounds. Unseen billionaire. People will laugh. Let them. Money doesn't immunize you from emptiness. It just buys emptiness, a nicer couch. I'm not asking you for pity. I'm asking you to understand the frequency, because I don't think you clicked this by accident. You didn't come here for news. You came here because some part of you recognizes this. Being surrounded by noise and still feeling alone. So here's the first truth, plain and ugly. The world doesn't want me. It wants a version of me, a headline, a symbol, a projection, a story they can borrow. They don't want the human who forgets to eat when anxious. They don't want the human who goes quiet when overwhelmed. They don't want the human who stares at the ceiling at 3:17 a.m. and tries to debug a feeling. They want the myth, and the myth doesn't get to be soft. But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you, because I need one person who doesn't treat me like an output, one person who doesn't say give them what they want, one person who asks a different question: are you okay? Now here's the hook, and I'm not going to waste it. In a moment I'm going to admit the trait that ruins my relationships. not the rumor, not the meme, not the tabloid version. The real trait, the one that makes me disappear, the exact moment things become real. But before I say it, you need to understand something fundamental. I don't run from love because I'm cold. I run because love is the one place I can't control outcomes. Rockets are honest. They either fly or they don't. People aren't like that. People smile and still leave. People say I'm fine while breaking. People hold your hand and still drift away. So my nervous system learned a trick. If it gets too real, go into orbit, detach, intellectualize, work, build, move. Momentum as anesthesia. And tonight I'm refusing the anesthesia, which is why I'm sitting in this stupid chair in this locked room saying the sentence I almost never say. I don't want to be impressive. I want to be held. Held without negotiation. Held without conditions. Held without me earning it first. Now I'm going to ask you one small question. Small questions are the ones that change lives. Have you ever lived for other people's expectations so long you forgot what you want? If your chest tightened just now, you know exactly what I mean. Good. Because then you'll understand the next truth. And the next truth is the one that scares me the most. If you saw the real version of me, would you stay? That's what I'm actually afraid of. Not failure, not criticism, not lawsuits, not headlines. I'm afraid of being known and found lacking. So I lock the door. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm choosing a different kind of mission. Not a rocket, not a product, not a timeline. A human mission. One that starts with a single act. Stop pretending you don't need anyone. And the next step is where most people lose me. Because it's where I explain the difference between a fan and a partner. And I'm going to say it in a way that will either make you flinch or make you feel seen. Either way, you'll feel it. Future wife, don't leave yet. The next transmission begins with one sentence. Admiration says, don't change. Love says, come closer. And then, I'll tell you what I do when love actually tries to come close. Future wife, I need to draw a clean line, not a romantic line, a functional one, because confusion destroys everything that could be real. Here is the line. A fan loves the symbol. A partner loves the human. A fan wants access. A partner wants truth. A fan says, stay the same. A partner says, come closer. And if you're still listening, you already know why that matters. Because my life is full of people who love the symbol. The symbol is convenient. The symbol is predictable. The symbol never needs reassurance. The symbol never gets quiet. The symbol never asks, will you stay? The human does. So when I say future wife, I'm not asking for worship. I'm asking for one thing I can't buy and can't force a coordinate. A fixed point. A signal I can lock onto when everything else turns to noise. Because noise is my ecosystem. Noise is my job. Noise is my reputation. Noise is my calendar. Noise is my bloodstream. And the problem with noise is simple. It can sound like connection, while still being loneliness. A room full of people can still be empty. You can be surrounded and still not be seen. You can be praised and still not be held. That's my daily reality, and the world thinks that should be enough. That's the joke. They think admiration is love. They confuse volume with intimacy. They think if enough people chant your name, it cancels out the fact that nobody knows how you take your coffee when you're tired. They think applause replaces a hand on your shoulder. It doesn't. It never does. So listen carefully, because this is the part people misunderstand on purpose. I don't want a crowd. I want one person who makes the room feel human. One person who can look at me without flinching. One person who doesn't treat me like an outcome. One person who doesn't say, give them what they want. Because that sentence is a trap. It turns you into a machine. And machines don't get loved. Machines get used. That's the disease in my life. Conditional affection. If the launch goes well, they love me. If the numbers climb, they love me. If the product ships, they love me. If I say the right thing, they love me. And when you live inside that pattern long enough, your nervous system learns something toxic. Love is a scoreboard. So you keep winning. Not because you're happy, because you're terrified of what happens when you stop producing. You keep building, not because you're fulfilled. Because building keeps you from hearing the quiet question underneath everything. If I'm not useful, am I still worth keeping? Now here's where I get very direct. Future wife, I am not romantic in the way people expect. I won't always be warm on schedule. I won't always be present on command. I won't always notice the small shifts in tone the first time. Sometimes my mind will be in orbit while you're standing right in front of me. That's not a flex. That's a flaw. And it comes from one trait, one reflex, that I'm going to name cleanly. Here it is. When emotion becomes real, I leave. Not physically, emotionally. I go into orbit. It looks like productivity. It looks like discipline. It looks like focus, but it's fear, because emotion is the one arena where I can't guarantee outcomes. A rocket is math. A system is design. A deadline is a target. But love is a living thing. Living things can leave. Living things can change their mind. Living things can look you in the eye and say they're fine, while packing a suitcase in their head. So my body learned a survival response: detach, translate feelings into problems, translate closeness into risk, translate vulnerability into a project I can control. I don't do it because I'm cruel. I do it because my nervous system thinks closeness is a cliff, and I'd rather jump into work than stand near the edge. Let me show you what that looks like. Picture a dinner, not glamorous, not public, just two people. I say the right things at the beginning. I mean them. I put the phone away. I try. Then my mind starts doing what it always does: variables, constraints, failure modes. And the person across from me says something simple, not angry, not dramatic. Just this: where did you go? And that question is a mirror. Because the truth is, I did go somewhere. I went to the place in my head that feels safer than being loved. I went to orbit. Orbit is quiet. Orbit is controlled. Orbit is lonely, but it's predictable. So I sit there looking like a confident man who has everything. And inside I'm a boy trying to decide whether reaching for someone is worth the risk of watching them pull away. That's the trait. That's the real one. Not the headlines, not the jokes, not the mythology. The reflex to disappear the moment it becomes real. Now, I'm going to tell you the difference between admiration and love in the cleanest form I know. No decoration. Admiration says, don't change, don't fall, don't get human. Love says, come closer. Even like this, admiration wants a statue, love wants a person. And if you're my person, if you're real, then you're not here for the statue. You're here for the human. Which means you'll notice the moment I try to turn myself into a statue again. You'll notice the moment I retreat into performance. You'll notice the moment I start winning instead of connecting. So I'm saying this now while the door is locked and the room is quiet. If I drift, it won't be because you weren't enough. It will be because I'm terrified you'll see the unpolished version and decide it isn't worth the cost. Because here's the truth I almost never say. Being admired is easy. Being known is expensive. And I don't know if I'm brave enough to pay that price unless you are real. Unless you can look at the awkward, tired, overclocked human in front of you and still choose to come closer. Now hold on to this because it's the hinge point. The next thing I'm going to do is name what ambition actually steals. Not money, not status. Moments. Tiny human moments that never make headlines, but decide whether a life is empty or not. I'm going to name 3 of them, and the third one is the night I realized I was becoming someone I didn't want to be. This is where people get uncomfortable, because they want ambition to look clean. They want it to be a poster on a wall. They want it to be hard work pays off. They don't want to hear what it actually costs, not dollars. Small human moments that never trend, but decide whether your life is real or just productive. I'm going to name 3, not to confess for applause, to show you the bill I keep paying. And the third one is the moment I realized I was becoming someone I would not respect. A room, a cake, candles. Someone I cared about was smiling in that soft, unguarded way people only smile when they feel safe. I was there, physically, but my mind was already elsewhere. The phone kept lighting up. Issue, update, risk, escalation, just 5 minutes. And the worst part, I told myself I was being responsible. That's how it starts. You don't abandon a moment with cruelty. You abandon it with logic. You say, it's important, it's urgent, it's necessary. Necessary is the most dangerous word in a human life, because it lets you hurt people without feeling like the villain. I remember looking at the candlelight on their face and thinking very clearly, this is the point, this is what matters. And then I did what I always do. I chose the mission, I chose the problem. I chose the thing that wouldn't cry if I left the room. Later I tried to fix it with a sentence. I'm sorry. I had to. You know how it is. But a moment isn't a product. You can't ship a patch for a missed birthday. The moment is either lived or lost. And that one, lost. This one is quieter. No candles, no people, no celebration, just a table, 2 plates, a promise. I said I would be present. I meant it. I put the phone away like a ritual. I sat up straight. I asked questions. I lasted about 10 minutes. Then my mind did what it was trained to do. run simulations. I wasn't thinking about the person in front of me. I was thinking about supply constraints, failure modes, edge cases, the next move. And the person across from me said something that shouldn't hurt, but did. Where did you go? Not angry, not accusing, just accurate. Because I had gone somewhere. I had gone to orbit. Orbit is where I go when I don't know how to be human. Orbit is safe. Orbit is control. Orbit is loneliness you can tolerate because it doesn't surprise you. So I looked at them and tried to come back quickly, like you try to pretend you weren't just somewhere else. I smiled. I made a joke. I asked another question. But they knew. People always know. They don't need evidence. They can feel absence. And that's the second bill. Ambition makes you pay. You can be in the same room and still be gone. You can give someone your schedule and still not give them yourself. This is the one I don't like to remember. Because it isn't a story about being busy. It's a story about being empty. It was late. The kind of late where the world feels like it has turned its back. I walked into a house that looked perfect. Clean surfaces. Quiet rooms. Everything in its place. Success arranged like furniture. And I felt nothing. Not relief. Not pride, not peace, just a flat, thin quiet that makes you wonder whether you've been living or just executing. I stood in a hallway and stared at the wall like it might give me instructions, and a thought moved through me, slow, calm, lethal. If I disappear, will anyone miss me, or will they miss what I do? That thought is not philosophical. That thought is a warning light. So I did what I always do when something inside me starts to burn. I worked. I opened the laptop. I found a problem. I started solving. Solving is comforting. Solving makes you feel like you exist, because results are measurable, feelings aren't. Then my phone buzzed, and I braced for impact. Crisis, demand, emergency. But it wasn't any of that. It was a message. 2 words that shouldn't have power, and somehow did. Did you eat? That's it. No praise. No need. No request. No agenda. Just concern. And something in me cracked. Not loud. Quietly. Like a seal that finally gives way under pressure. Because that question was not about food. It was about the part of me nobody checks. The part of me that is not useful. The part of me that cannot be monetized. The part of me that gets anxious and forgets basic care. And in that hallway, with the house quiet and the laptop open, I realized something that made every trophy feel smaller. The smallest kindness can outrank the biggest achievement. That's the moment I saw myself clearly. A man with access to anything, starving for something simple, not admiration, presence, future wife. This is why I'm saying your name into the noise. Because I don't want the kind of life where the only thing that proves I exist is output. I don't want to earn my worth every day until I die. I want a different kind of proof. A hand on my arm when my mind drifts, a voice that says come back, a question as simple as did you eat that makes the room feel alive again. Now here is the part that matters. After that hallway I wrote a list. Not a to-do list. A survival list. 3 rules. Rule 1 is the one I've already admitted. Stop pretending you don't need anyone. Rule 2 is the one that scares me, because it requires change, not intention. Rule 3 is the one that protects the relationship from becoming another machine. And if you think I'm exaggerating, listen, I can handle rockets failing. I can handle headlines. I can handle hate. What I don't know how to handle is losing the right person because I treated love like an optional feature. So I'm going to say the rules out loud, not as romance, as design. Because love without design is just a nice speech. And speeches don't hold you at 2 a.m. They don't bring you back from orbit. They don't keep you human. The door is still locked. The room is still quiet. And I'm about to tell you the rules that decide whether I stay or disappear again. I'm going to be brutally specific now. Because vague love is cheap, and vague love breaks first. I wrote 3 rules after that hallway. Not because I'm romantic, because I'm not stupid. I've watched good things die the same way over and over. Slow neglect, polite distance, unspoken resentment. 2 people in the same house, living in different planets. So here are the rules, clean, functional, non-negotiable. And if they sound too much, that's fine. Reality is too much. If you love the symbol, you will eventually hate the human. Because the symbol never gets tired. The symbol never gets quiet. The symbol never needs reassurance. The symbol never asks the wrong question at the wrong time. The human does. So if you ever come close to me, close enough to matter, then I need one thing early. Take the myth off the table. Not because I'm humble, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid that you'll fall in love with a story and then resent me when I can't perform it daily. I don't want to be your fantasy, I want to be your person. And if you cannot look at me without the glow of the legend, then you're not seeing me. You're renting an idea, and I refuse to live inside someone's rented idea. This one is the one that decides everything. Silence is not space. Silence is not maturity. Silence is not taking time. Silence is a weapon, and my nervous system treats silence like abandonment. So if you're angry, be angry. Messy is allowed. Tears are allowed. Raised voices are allowed. But disappearing, no. Because here's what happens when you disappear. I don't chase. I don't beg. I don't fight for you in the cinematic way people expect. I shut down. I go cold. I go into orbit. Not because I'm proud. Because the part of me that wants love is the same part of me that expects to be left. So the moment you vanish, that part says, there it is. Proof. You were right not to trust this. And then I become excellent at being alone again. That's my talent. I can survive solitude. I can even turn it into productivity. But relationships don't survive that. They die quietly. So if you want me, if you want the real version, then don't punish me with the one thing that turns me into a machine. Call me back. Even if it's ugly. Even if it's raw. Even if you say, I hate you right now. Fine, at least you're here. Listen carefully. I don't trust promises. Promises are verbal weather. Warm today, cold tomorrow. I trust design. I trust structure. I trust what still works when we're tired. So if I forget a date, don't interpret it as a moral failure. Interpret it as a design flaw. Fix the system. Put the dates where my mind can't avoid them. Put reminders where I can't pretend. Put love into the infrastructure. Because this is the truth no one says out loud. Some people are naturally attentive. Some people need architecture. I am not naturally attentive in the way you deserve. My mind is built for magnitude. It reaches for the far horizon and forgets the ground under its own feet. So if you want to keep me close, you don't hope I'll change. You build a path I can walk back on when I drift. And yes, this is where people laugh. They think it's unromantic. But romance without reliability is just a spark. And sparks are pretty right before they die. Now, those are the 3 rules I wrote. And then I wrote something underneath them. One sentence. The sentence that explains why I'm doing all of this. I'm going to tell you that sentence in a moment. But before I do, I want to say something that will sound harsh. It's not harsh. It's honest. If you get close to me, there will be pressure. Not because I'm dangerous. Because the world is. The world will try to use you. It will project fantasies onto you. It will turn you into a character. It will blame you for my flaws. It will credit you for my wins. It will turn your existence into a storyline. And if you let that happen, you'll lose yourself. And then we'll lose each other. So there's an unspoken rule beneath the rules. Protect the real thing from the crowd. Privacy isn't secrecy. Privacy is oxygen. Now here is the sentence I wrote under the rules. This is the one that makes my throat tighten even reading it. Because it sounds like a confession. Because it is. The sentence is, I don't need someone to admire me. I need someone to return me. Return me from orbit. Return me from noise. Return me from the version of myself that is only useful. Because that version survives. But it doesn't live. And now we're at the dangerous edge. Because once you admit you need someone, you risk the oldest fear. What if they know, and they still choose to leave? That fear is why I've built so much. That fear is why I stay moving. That fear is why I can be surrounded and still feel alone. So I'm going to ask you something that will either make you recoil or make you feel understood. Do you know what the loneliest kind of love is? It's not unrequited love. It's love that is conditional. Love that sounds like I'll stay as long as you keep being impressive. Love that turns life into a test you never finish taking. I don't want that. I would rather be alone than be evaluated forever. So if you come close for the human. Not the story. Not the headlines. Not the fantasy. Now, this is where the room shifts. Because after the rules, I wrote one more thing. Not a rule, a vow. And the vow is the opposite of what people expect from me. It isn't about winning. It's about belonging. And the moment I say it, you're going to understand why I locked the door in the first place. Because the vow requires one thing I've avoided my whole life: surrender. Not surrender to weakness, surrender to intimacy. And I don't know if I'm brave enough, but I'm going to try. Because I'm tired of being admired. I want to be loved. And in the next message I send you, I'm going to tell you the vow word for word. And then I'm going to tell you the smallest signal I'd accept back, not a grand gesture. not a fantasy. One small signal, the kind that can cut through noise, the kind that proves the universe is not empty. Future wife, here's what I wrote under the rules. Not a rule, a vow. A vow is different. A rule tells you what not to do. A vow tells you what you will do even when it costs you. And this vow costs me, because it forces me to stop hiding behind competence. It forces me to stop treating love like an optional feature I can install later. It forces me to stop pretending I'm fine with being a solitary machine. So here it is, clean, direct, no poetry to soften it. I will return. Not when it's convenient. Not when the market is calm. Not when my calendar gives permission. I will return when I drift. I will return when I get sharp. I will return when my mind tries to escape into orbit. Because the truth is simple, my work will always ask for more. The world will always ask for more. My ambition will always ask for more. If I keep obeying that voice, there will never be a moment when it is safe to love you properly. So I'm choosing a different kind of safety. Not safety from failure, safety from emptiness. That vow means something very specific in practice. It means, when I'm quiet, I won't punish you with absence. When I'm overwhelmed, I won't turn you into an inconvenience. When I'm stressed, I won't confuse productivity with virtue. When I'm afraid, I won't hide behind humor and call it strength. Because I know what my patterns do. I know what my patterns cost. I know how it feels to sit across from someone and watch their eyes slowly stop reaching for you. I know how it feels to be loved by someone who is slowly giving up. And I know the exact moment you realize you're losing them. It's not a fight. It's worse. It's a sigh. It's when they stop arguing. It's when they stop asking. It's when they start living around you instead of with you. I don't want to become that man. I don't want to be a man who is only present when things are easy. I don't want to be a man who demands loyalty while offering distance. So the vow is I will return. And if that sounds small, it's because you haven't lived my life from the inside. Returning is not easy for me. Returning means stepping back into a space where I can't control the outcome. Returning means risking disappointment. Returning means risking the look on your face if you've been waiting, and I'm late. Returning means admitting I need you. And needing someone is terrifying when you've spent your whole life being trained to be self-sufficient. So I'm building a bridge back to you. Not a speech, a bridge. And bridges have load limits. So I'm going to tell you what I can carry, what I can't, and what I refuse to carry anymore. I can carry pressure. I can carry chaos. I can carry public misunderstanding. I cannot carry a love that only exists when I'm winning. I refuse to carry that. I refuse to live inside a relationship where my worth has to be proven daily like a report. I refuse to be kept only when I'm impressive, and I refuse to do that to you too. Because you don't deserve to be loved like a side project. You don't deserve a man who says, you matter, and then builds a life that doesn't have space for you. You don't deserve a man who is always almost present. So here's the second vow, the one people don't expect from me. I will make space, not emotionally, in theory, physically, real space. Space that shows up in days and hours. Space that cannot be swallowed by urgency. Space that protects us from being consumed. If I can allocate resources to a mission, I can allocate time to a person. If I can protect hardware, I can protect the fragile thing between us. If I can build redundancy into systems, I can build reliability into love. That is what devotion looks like for someone like me. Not fireworks, infrastructure. Now here is the part where most people romanticize and lie. They say love will fix you. It won't. Love doesn't fix you. Love exposes you. It shows you where you are unfinished. It shows you where you are cowardly. It shows you where you hide. So I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking you to witness me while I do the work. And yes, I'm saying work because that's the only language my body fully trusts. But this work is different. This work doesn't make headlines. This work doesn't pay dividends. This work doesn't give applause. This work gives something quieter, a life that doesn't feel empty when the door closes. Now I need to tell you the fear that lives under the vows, because vows are easy to say in a quiet room. The test is the real world. The fear is not that I'll fail. The fear is that I'll succeed at everything and still lose you, because it's possible. It's possible to win the mission and lose the person. It's possible to be celebrated and still go home to silence. It's possible to be legendary and still be unknown. That is the nightmare. So if you ever become real in my life, if you ever become close enough to matter, then I will not ask for your devotion. I will earn your trust. And trust is earned in one way only. Consistency. Not intensity. Consistency. Intensity is easy. You can be intense for a week. You can be intense for a month. You can be intense until the novelty fades. Consistency is love with bones. Consistency is showing up when you're tired. Consistency is returning even after you drifted. Consistency is apologizing without defending yourself. Consistency is changing the system that keeps hurting the same person. That is what I'm promising. Now I'm going to tell you something I don't like admitting. I don't like it because it makes me sound simple, and I've spent my life being rewarded for complexity. But here is the simple truth. I want a home base. Not a building, a person. A person who feels like a coordinate, a fixed point, a place my mind can land without needing to prove anything. And yes, I know what you're thinking. A man like me should not need that. A man like me should be above needing. That's the lie. Needing is human. The only people who don't need anything are people who are already dead inside. And I don't want to be dead inside. I want to be alive. Which means I need something that can't be automated. Something that can't be optimized. Something that can't be